You are lying still, but you are not sleeping. Your phone is on the pillow beside you. The screen is dark. You have put it down already, twice. And yet, something keeps pulling at you. Not a thought exactly, more like a presence. Something that has settled into your chest without asking permission. Something that came with the weight of a name you are not ready to say out loud. You reach up and turn the lamp off. The room goes dark, but the feeling does not go with it. There was a moment, you know the one. You were going about your ordinary day, and something happened that was extraordinary. You looked across a room, or you glanced up from a table, or you were mid-sentence in a conversation that had nothing to do with love, with longing, with anything you were asking God for. And your eyes met, and time did something strange. It did not stop, that is too dramatic a word for what happened. It simply slowed. The way water changes when a river meets the sea. Not dramatic, just different. And in that moment, something in you recognized something in that person. Not their face, something behind their face. You could not explain it then. You cannot fully explain it now. But you know it happened, and you know it mattered. Chosen one, I know you. I know the way you carry this feeling quietly, carefully, because you are not sure anyone would understand. I know the way you replay that moment when you think no one is watching, when the ordinary things of your day fall quiet and your mind drifts back, not because you chose to, but because it found you. I know the question that sits at the center of all of this. Why? Why this person? Why this feeling? Why now? After all the seasons of waiting you have already walked through. You have prayed about love before. You have trusted God about love before. You have done the releasing, the surrendering, the letting go, only to have this something rise up again, like it was never fully finished. And now this, a moment you cannot take back, a face you cannot fully leave behind. If you know the feeling I am describing right now, if there is a person in your spirit even as you listen to this, type these words in the comments below. I saw it. Let those around you know they are not alone in this. Because in this room, in this moment, there are more people who understand this than you think. I want to ask you something, and I want you to hold this question, not answer it yet, just hold it. What if the reason you cannot look away is because God may be using this moment? What if the pull you have been carrying, the one you have tried to pray away, think away, logic away, is not a distraction from your faith? What if it is a product of it? What if the person your heart has been drawn toward was not placed there by accident, by chemistry, by the confusion of a heart that has been alone too long? What if they were permitted to enter your life by the God who made you, who knows exactly what you are built for, who has been moving pieces you cannot see from a board you cannot access? We are going to sit with this today, all of it. But before we do, I need to say something first. I know how long you have been waiting. I know what waiting for love has cost you. I know the quiet Sunday afternoons when everyone else seemed to be living the life you were praying toward. I know the celebrations you smiled through while something underneath you ached. I know the specific kind of tired that comes from hoping. And I want you to know before anything else today that your waiting was not wasted. Not a single season of it. Every day you held on with nothing to hold on to but faith. God was holding something else, something for you, something He has been preparing with the same patience He is asking of you. We will come back to this. But first, let me sit with you in the hardest part. Here is what I will not do today. I will not gloss over what came before. Because there is a reason you built walls around your heart. There is a reason you decided quietly, without announcing it, that hoping for love again was something you could not afford. Something happened. Maybe it was sudden, a conversation that ended something, a message that arrived and changed everything, a day when someone you had entrusted with the fragile, unspoken parts of yourself chose to leave. Or maybe it was slow, the gradual cooling of something that once felt warm, the slow realization that you were reaching towards someone who had already turned away. Either way, you know the specific weight of that loss. You know what it felt like to believe God had brought someone and then to watch them go. And somewhere in that grief, a decision formed, not a conscious one, not one you announced, but a decision nonetheless. I will not let this happen again. I will not open that door. I will keep this part of me safe even from God. So you built a very reasonable life around a very reasonable wound. You stayed busy. You stayed faithful. You went to church and you prayed and you served and you lived genuinely as a person who loves God. But you pulled in the portion of your heart that dreams of being fully known by another person. You gave God your mornings. You gave Him your obedience. But that room, the room where longing lives, you shut the door on it, quietly, efficiently, with the practiced ease of someone who has learned not to want what they cannot have. And it worked. For a while, you felt strong. You felt settled. You felt like you had finally graduated beyond the messy territory of needing another person. And then, that moment, that face, that pull that arrived without asking permission and settled into your chest like it had always lived there. And suddenly, the door you had shut so carefully cracked open. There is a man I want to bring into this room with us. His name was C.S. Lewis, Oxford scholar, lecturer and fellow at Magdalen College, Oxford, author of some of the most precise theological thinking of the 20th century. He also lost the woman he loved. After a lifetime of remaining carefully single, carefully intellectual, carefully protected, he fell in love when he was nearing 60. And then, just a few years into their marriage, he watched his wife die of cancer. He wrote about the vulnerability of love in The Four Loves. And he wrote, "To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken." Pause on that. To love at all is to be vulnerable. Lewis is not telling you that love is foolish. He is not warning you away from it. He is telling you the truth that you already know in your body, that opening your heart is the cost of receiving love, that the very organ of love is the same one that can be hurt by it. And here is what Lewis discovered on the other side of loss. The alternative is worse. To lock your heart away, to make yourself invulnerable, is not safety. It is a kind of slow diminishing, a life that becomes smaller and quieter and more careful, until one day you realize you have been protecting yourself from the very thing you were made to experience. Chosen one. The wound you carry is real, but the wall you built around it was never meant to be permanent. Here is the thing about broken hearts that heal. They come back with a kind of depth that undamaged hearts cannot manufacture. The person who has never experienced real loss may love with a certain lightness, a certain ease, a certain uncomplicated openness that is beautiful but not yet deeply tested. But the person who has been through something, who has loved and lost and chosen to remain open, that person loves with a certain weight, a substance, a knowing. You know what it cost. You know what it means. And because you know both of those things, what you have to offer someone who receives your love is not the uncomplicated delight of someone who has never been hurt. It is the deeper gift, the love of someone who chose to trust again. Your wound did not disqualify you from love. Your wound was the classroom where you learned what love actually costs and chose it anyway. That is not a liability. That is a crown. But God was not only refining your heart in that season, He was also building something else. Something you could not see because you were living through the construction. Something that required the exact length of your waiting. Chosen one. He had not forgotten. He was not sleeping. He was not looking elsewhere. He was building, and what he was building was being built specifically for you. I want to tell you something about the nature of God's preparation. It is almost always invisible while it is happening. When a craftsman builds a great house, the foundation takes longer than any other part. It is the most labor-intensive section. It requires the most precision. It happens underground, where no one can see it, where there is no visible reward for all the effort being poured in. And then one day, without ceremony, the above-ground work begins. And it moves quickly. What looked like stalling was structural preparation. Chosen one, that is what God was doing in the years that felt like nothing. While you were wondering if He had forgotten the prayer you prayed, for love He was building the ground beneath someone else's feet. He was preparing a person in their own private seasons of refinement, their own wounds, their own walls going up and coming down to be exactly what you needed. Not perfect, not finished, but ready to find you. There is a verse in Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 11 that I want to read slowly. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Everything. Not the easy things, not the obvious things, not the things that came without cost. Everything. The years you spent alone, believing you had somehow missed your season, beautiful in its time. The people who left before the promise was fulfilled, beautiful in its time. The prayers that seemed to go unanswered, the hopes that seemed to dissolve, the seasons where you had nothing to hold on to but the memory of what God had whispered to your heart years before. Beautiful in its time, not eventually beautiful. Not beautiful once the pain is forgotten. Beautiful in the specific, appointed, deliberate time of God, who does not operate on your calendar, but on an eternal one that sees what you cannot see from where you are standing. He has made everything beautiful in its time. That includes this season you are in right now. That includes the person who entered your awareness without warning. That includes the feeling you are still trying to understand. Beautiful. In its time, I want to take you back somewhere. A few years ago, maybe more, there was a season when the people around you moved forward without you. You watched someone get the promotion. You watched someone walk down the aisle. You watched someone announce a pregnancy, and you clapped your hands and smiled, and then you went home and sat in a silence that had a shape to it. You were happy for them, genuinely, but there was something underneath the happiness that you could not quite name. A quiet question, when is it my turn? And then time moved, and the people who moved forward without you built lives that did not include you the way they used to. New seasons, new circles. The texting became less frequent. The calls became occasional. You felt left behind. And in that feeling of being left behind, something in you pulled inward. Something decided, quietly, that to love freely and be left was too costly a pattern to keep repeating. Chosen one, I want you to hear this. That season of being left behind was not God abandoning you. It was God clearing the field. Every person who moved on was creating space. Every relationship that faded was leaving room. Every chapter that closed, no matter how much it hurt when the door shut, was God removing what was not built for your future. Not because they were bad people, not because you did anything wrong, but because the life God is building for you requires a specific architecture. And some of the people who were beautiful in one chapter were simply not designed for the next one. You were not left behind. You were being protected. You were being held in a holding pattern by a God who knew that the moment He released you into the next chapter, you needed to arrive clear, unentangled, available. The loneliness you mistook for abandonment was actually a form of divine preparation. You were being made ready. Every goodbye that broke your heart was making room. Every closed door created space. Every season of stillness was adding depth, the kind of depth that cannot be manufactured, only lived. You were not being punished. You were being positioned, And now in this moment with this person whose name or face or presence has entered your awareness, you are standing in the exact location where all of that positioning was leading. The field has been cleared. The ground has been prepared, and something is beginning. Let me tell you about a certain kind of moment. Not the grand romantic gestures of movies, not the confessions and declarations and perfectly timed speeches. The small one. The kind that happens in the middle of something ordinary. Maybe you were in a conversation and that person laughed, really laughed at something everyone else in the room found only mildly amusing. And for a reason you cannot trace, that laugh stirred something in you. Maybe you watched that person notice someone else's pain before anyone else did. They moved toward the hurting person quietly, without announcement, without needing anyone to see. Maybe that person said your name in a particular way, as if saying it meant something, and something in you paid attention. Not the loud, obvious part of you that processes and calculates and makes decisions based on logic. The quiet part, the part that lives below the noise of your ordinary thinking. That part went very still and very attentive, the way an animal in a forest goes still. When it senses something it does not yet have language for, but knows with absolute certainty is real. The small signal pointed to something large. You did not know yet what it was, but something in you knew it was important. I want to bring C.S. Lewis back into the room. In his book Mere Christianity, Lewis writes one of the most remarkable passages about what happens when God begins to work deeply in a person's life. He says, "Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. He is building quite a different house from the one you thought of, throwing out a new wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards." Read that slowly. God is not just repairing what was damaged. He is redesigning what was built on too small a vision. Chosen one, the life you imagined for yourself at 22, was a smaller house than the one God has been building. The love you prayed for at 28 was a smaller vision than what He has been preparing. While you were asking God for a manageable, reasonable, comfortable version of love, He was designing something with extra floors, with towers, with courtyards you did not even know to ask for. And the person who has been drawn into your life, the one your heart recognizes in that quiet, animal still way, may be part of an architecture that is larger than anything your original prayer contained. God was not withholding. He was expanding. He was building a house for both of you separately, simultaneously large enough to contain the life He had in mind. The book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 22, says, "He who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord." Notice the structure of that verse. Not he who has earned a wife, not he who has waited long enough, not he who has prayed the right number of prayers. He who finds. The finding itself, the moment of recognition, can be received as a sign of favor, which means the moment your heart recognized something in this person may not have been accidental. It may already have been the favor of God at work. The search and the finding are not separate from God's grace. They are the expression of it. Your heart did not simply stumble upon someone at random. Your heart recognized something, and God may have been guiding that recognition. Chosen one, I want to give you language for what you have been feeling, what you experienced in that moment, the stillness, the recognition, the quiet certainty that something real was happening, has a name. It is not merely infatuation. Infatuation is loud. Infatuation is urgent. Infatuation makes demands of you. It says, "I need you to decide right now. I need you to act right now. I cannot wait." What you felt was different. It was quiet. It was steady. It was the feeling of something settling into its correct place after a long time of being unsettled. That is what I call the recognition of a divine purpose. It is the moment when the soul recognizes, beneath all the noise of ordinary life, something it was always meant to encounter. Not a projection, not a fantasy, not the loneliness of a waiting heart, making something out of nothing. A recognition. The recognition of something real, something permitted by God, arriving at an appointed moment. And the most remarkable thing about recognizing a divine purpose is this: once you have experienced it, imitations never feel the same again. Chosen one. If you have ever felt this, if you feel it right now, in this season, type these words below. I know. 2 words. That is all. Because sometimes the most important things in our spirits do not need long explanations. They just need to be named. I know. But here is the question that has been waiting at the center of all of this. We have talked about the wound. We have talked about the waiting. We have talked about the preparation and the positioning and the moment of recognition. Think about the last time their name came up unexpectedly. Maybe someone mentioned their name in a conversation that had nothing to do with them. Maybe you glanced at your phone and something in you waited just for a second to see if the message was from them. You were not chasing. You were listening. That is the quiet gravity of what God has placed between 2 prepared souls. But there is still one question you have been carrying. Why can they not look away? What is it specifically that makes this feel like more than ordinary attraction? What is it that draws them back to you without effort on your part, without strategy, without performance, the way a compass needle cannot avoid pointing north? That is what we are going to answer in the next few minutes. And I think the answer is going to change how you see everything. Here is the truth that religion is often made complicated. When God designed you, specifically you, with your particular history and your particular gifts and your particular way of moving through the world, He also understood the kind of person who could walk beside you. Not a generic match, not a list of spiritual qualities pasted on a willing person. A specific one, someone whose history has been shaped by the same invisible hand, someone whose wounds may have shaped them in complementary ways, someone whom God may have led through their own silent seasons, their own losses, and their own careful rebuilding in ways that allow the 2 of you to fit not perfectly, but precisely. Not perfect, precisi. The way 2 puzzle pieces that belong together are not identical, their edges are shaped to meet. The place where one juts out is the place where the other falls in. When God-aligned souls encounter one another, when 2 people who have been separately prepared by the same God arrive in the same space at the same time, there is a gravitational pull, not manufactured, not performed, not achieved through strategy. It is simply what happens when 2 lives that seem meant to share the same orbit finally come into range. That may be why they find it hard to look away. Not because of anything you did, because of what God has been doing in both of you for longer than either of you fully knows. In the Song of Solomon, chapter 3, verse 4, there is a line that has always struck me. I found the one my heart loves. Not I chose him from a list of suitable candidates. Not I decided, after careful evaluation, that this was the logical match. I found the one my heart loves. The language of finding, as if the love was already there waiting to be found, as if the heart already knew, and the finding was simply the moment the knowing became visible. Chosen one, your heart already knows things your mind has not caught up to yet. That is not weakness. That is not naivety. That is the quiet wisdom of a heart that has been shaped by God, that recognizes His work in someone else before the rational mind has the vocabulary to describe what it is seeing. The person who cannot look away from you, that person's heart may be doing the same thing. It is finding, it is recognizing, it is arriving at the place it was always heading, through all the detours and the delays and the seasons that looked like nothing from the outside. C.S. Lewis, in The Problem of Pain, writes something that I have returned to many times. He says, "He seems to do nothing of himself which he can possibly delegate to his creatures. He commands us to do slowly and blunderingly what he could do perfectly and in the twinkling of an eye." That sentence contains everything you need to understand about God's timing. God could have allowed the connection to happen sooner. He is God. He could have allowed that moment of recognition at 23 instead of 33. He could have shortened the waiting. He could have skipped the wound, the wall, the careful rebuilding. He did not. Not because he was slow, but because the people he was preparing, both of you, may have needed the full length of the journey to become who you needed to be for this kind of love. The wound you carried made you capable of depth. The waiting you endured made you capable of gratitude. The walls you built and slowly took down made you capable of the particular kind of trust that real love requires. Not naive trust, but chosen trust. Trust that knows the cost and opens anyway. God took the long way, because the long way may have been the path that formed what he had in mind. And the person who cannot look away from you, they took the long way too. You are both arriving at the same place, from two different long roads, and the meeting, when it comes in its fullness, will carry everything both roads have formed in both of you. Which is why the person God may have aligned with you, the one whose gaze keeps returning to you, may not be acting on a whim. They may be responding to something formed in them along the long road, something to which only you can respond. Chosen one, I want to be very clear with you right now. What you have been feeling may not be mere coincidence. It does not have to be dismissed as the confusion of a lonely heart, wishful thinking, or the projection of someone who has waited so long that they fear they are making something out of nothing. What you felt in that moment you cannot unsee may have been an echo of divine design. God can work through the people and encounters that enter our lives. Every encounter can carry meaning. Every moment of recognition is permitted. Every person who enters your awareness with that quiet, settled gravity may be there for a reason. The question is not simply whether God may be involved. The question is what he wants you to do with what he is showing you. And that is not a question of performance or strategy. It is a question of trust. Can you trust that God may be doing something real even before you have the full picture? Can you hold what you feel without grasping it? Can you let God complete what he has begun in his timing, in his way, without forcing it or giving up? Chosen one, you did not miss your season. I need you to hear that. Not as comfort, not as encouragement, as truth. You did not misread God. You did not pray wrong. You did not wait too long, or trust too little, or damage something that cannot be repaired. You may be exactly where God is asking you to be, at the right moment, with a new awareness beginning to dawn in you. The long road was not a detour. It was the destination. We started today with a question. Why does the person meant for you, the one whose presence has settled into your awareness like something that belongs there, keep finding their way back to you? Why can they not look away? You know the answer now. Not because I gave it to you, because something in you already knew it, and today we just gave it language. The pull you feel is real. The recognition is real. The preparation God may have been doing in both of you, quietly, patiently, through the seasons that look like nothing is real. And now you are standing at the beginning of what that preparation was for. Psalm 37 verse 4 says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." I want to spend a moment on the first part of that verse, because I think we often rush past it to get to the promise. Delight yourself in the Lord. Do not pursue the desire. Do not strategize about the desire. Do not manage your emotions about the desire until the desire arrives. Delight. Delight in God is not a technique for getting what you want. It is a state of being, a condition of the soul, in which the presence of God has become so genuinely satisfying that the things you desire begin to align with the things He desires for you. When you delight in God, truly delight, not merely perform it, something happens in your spirit. The desires that remain are the ones that were always His idea, and He gives them not as a transaction, as an expression of the love of a father who has always known what his child was made for. So what do? Right now, in this season, with this awareness you are carrying, you live faithfully, not with passive waiting, not with desperate grasping, not with the strategy of someone who has decided they must manufacture the outcome they can feel approaching. You live with integrity. You pray not as an attempt to control the timeline, but as a genuine conversation with a God who already knows. You keep your eyes open, not scanning for signs, but present to what God is actually doing in front of you. You protect your heart, not by shutting it down again, not by retreating behind the walls that took so long to come down, but by being wise about what you allow into its most tender spaces. You trust the pull without chasing it, because the things God has ordained do not require you to sprint toward them. They require you to walk steadily, in faith, in the direction He is already pointing you. Chosen one, I want to leave you with this. The God who may have arranged this moment, who allowed this person to enter your awareness, who has been preparing you both through the long seasons, neither of you fully understood that God is not finished. He does not lead you toward what is good merely to abandon you. He is not careless with what He reveals. He is the God who reveals and then walks with you as His purpose unfolds. You do not have to force this. You do not have to fear losing it. You do not have to make something happen that God may already be setting in motion. You just have to stay. Stay faithful. Stay open. Stay in the place of delight. That place where God so fully satisfies you that the anxious urgency simply quiets. And let the God who made you both complete the work He has already begun. The person meant for you may find it hard to look away, because God may be drawing both of you toward what is true. Chosen one, before you close this, if today has spoken to something in your spirit, if this found you in a season where you needed it most, I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel, because we are just beginning. Next time, we are going to talk about something that many chosen ones are afraid to admit. The fear that when love finally arrives, they will not be able to receive it. You do not want to miss that conversation. Subscribe now and bring someone with you who needs to hear this. Let us close in prayer. Father, I want to bring before you every person who has listened to this today. Everyone who came to this carrying the weight of a name they are not sure they should be carrying. Everyone who has been in the waiting so long that they stopped believing the promise was still alive. I ask you, right now, speak to that place of uncertainty. Remind them that you are the same God who parted the sea, who led the wanderer home, who gave the barren a child and the exile a return. You are not slow, Lord. You are precise. Your timing is not our timing, but it is always right. I speak peace over every heart listening, peace that does not require understanding, peace that does not require a timeline, just peace, the kind that passes all understanding and guards their heart and mind in Christ Jesus. You are the one their heart loves, and you are the one who will lead them to the love you have been preparing. In your name and in your perfect timing. Amen.